ASAP Mall feels so good. Um, it's a work of art. You copy that. No, I was talking about how I was at this like dive bar here in Beverly like a few years ago, and it's like not. I mean, it's a dive bar. There's not like a dress code or anything. It's not even like I don't know. It's pretty casual around here to begin with, but I I'm not sure if I've been out before, but I was there and I was wearing like these like silver boots and like a champagne colored skirt with like below the knee and like a slit to here. So if you it crossed your legs, you could see your like knee, yeah, and like a big leather jacket and like it was cute. It was like kind of 30s ish or whatever. And a bartender that was working there was like, come to find out later on that she spoke to someone that I knew. It was like, you know that girl does, and do you know what I like? You don't. Why are you talking? And it's like this, she started to comment on the fact that she could see my leg, my knee cap. It's like, oh my god, I can see your thigh. I was talking with this guy sitting next to me. He was like, I think he worked there with me. Nice guy, and he was like, we were both like, what is she against thighs? Like, and it's this girl with like poorly dyed blonde hair, so you can see like her roots, and like it was pulled back, and it was just very like not want to talk right now, but like wash my hair. But when you have blonde hair, have to make it that much more like you have to be that much more vigilant. It looks that much greasier. And you can see the blonde like gets darker, and like you can just tell it's like really greasy. And just this bigger girl with like a big jersey, like it was just not. I don't know. You're commenting on my clothes is basically what I was like. And then I was like, well, I don't think there's a dress code here. And we were like, you against thighs? And it was just like bewildering. She came back, you like half an hour later, she's like, I can still see your thigh. I was like, oh my gosh. And the only two other people that were in the bar were just like being weird jerks about it as well. I stormed out of there like, oh my god, put on that piece up. I'm not the fucking lord of this fashion shit. At least here in Beverly. Where the fuck are these people to question me? You know, Lord and Taylor, you like switch them, like study fashion and tailoring. You ain't taking nothing from me, and I'm gonna die about it. Intense. But yeah, yeah. Who's anyone to be like, oh, I just stumbled across your YouTube channel and now I own it. What? Or I'm inviting myself into your own backyard. Like, I don't know. I'm beside myself because people are just so like assumptive about what they've never had anything to do with. But um, yeah, it's a work of art. You gotta be really collapse and hurt. Yeah, it's being so prescient and like supportive evidence to what goes on here. I appreciate it. Like, well, whenever I compliment my cat, like, you're so cute. Well, TV will be like, I appreciate that. Salvador Dali. So it seemed like it all worked out that way. References, just Instagram, Mexico City is a theme of mine. I try to pull it all together and all these like, subtle connections from across the years in this kind of like concentrated energy or some kind of idea. That melting clock melted like Dolly. How does it end? Like in the Truman Show, I was wearing that panties like I was gonna ask myself, how does it end? And my love for ice cream and went out and got Dippin' Dots, like sixth grade, maybe being in sixth grade. And the things under the lid and said, I melt with you. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because as far as like climate change goes and whatnot, because I remember in Brooklyn, I was on my balcony, my fire escape, and I saw it was maybe the first time I saw like something in the clouds that was just like bizarre, where I'm like that just not in the cloud. I don't know how to say it, but first time I really took note of something, I was like, I feel like that's a sign. It was a perfectly depicted map of the world, like all continents. Everything was like exact and country like outlines everything, and I was like, does anyone else see this? And then the only difference was that like Antarctic or not Antarctic, North Pole basically had been like moved down into like the Atlantic, so it was almost connecting Europe and North America, as if it started to melt. So I feel like that was a warning back in like 2016. How does it end? I melt with you. So all these little like timing overlaps and whatnot. In any case, yeah. That's right. Just one guy. I think I told that only God can stop me. Yeah. Um, it was that started with Danny. That feels so good. And I thought it'd be complimentary, I guess. It's in so many things. Feels so good. Because that's what he said to me when we were together. Um, like that nuclear campaign. And it's one of the songs I used to put up a lot. Stardust. Things having to do with the stars and music sounds better with you. So, and then within that, just repeated codes of like from some of the videos that I've used before, like breaking through a wall. That's from Bad Blood, and also A Brief History of John Baldessari, and reference to an art performance of breaking through sheets of paper and emerging from some metaphor, beauty that can emerge through. So I feel like that's a little bit of tulip too, but bring us back together, like come together. That was my senior collection at Baylor. That was my soundtrack, the Beatles together, and partly a little bit because my unofficial like mentor I looked up to a lot into like construction to teach me through like looking at what they designed like construction of they weren't teaching us at Baylor, and I just always loved Stella McCartney's style, and her dad obviously is Beatles, and it's my lullaby growing up 8 days a week, and then they made like a animation video of Come Together, and just these repeated like codes because yeah, that is the Four of Wands, which is really like 4 degrees of fire signs outside associated to my like 4 degree sun sign, but some little like chateau outside of the main house. That makes sense. Edie lived in a pool in Chel Manhattan. I had that my little backyard area while in a nice studio. Marie Antoinette had her like chateau and tea tree on and the country place and these little like forts. That's why I thought the Four of Wands forts. I don't know if I said that in the last video or if I said that on my device, but yeah. Just like what did you pick up on out of that, like, and how you incorporated that into like a per designer or per kind of campaign? How did you interpret that and put it into like a campaign, like here? And the crossing of guys and girls from referencing the New York La 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 and Duran Duran song, I thought was a reference to West Side Story, which is my dad's favorite movies, and um, ideas of like ballet and the skateboarders and whatnot, and dance and Swim Seagull in the Sky, Ariel. I just had all these little like tidbits and quotes and whatnot, but basically, and you can see her hand go down like that on the screen. It's like a black glove. I swear I saw the most strange thing one night when I was driving, and just like a Mickey Mouse hand glove, 2 of them. It was like a balloon animal kind of thing. It almost looked like latexy or something, shiny, and just like here, just 2 hands, and jump into the sewer bottle. Disappeared. That's strange. How strange. Felt like it brought like the fashion industry together in a way that was really subtle, as usually. Just subtle references to like all the tarot and just built upon itself. It was so fun that way. I think people might have thought that it was going to be like a trap, um, some of the things that I kind of, I guess, I think they thought someone was going to put all these connections together, and then like didn't maybe realize that I would objectively just be like connecting dots and things like that. And like, oh, people really like putting some of these codes in their videos. I don't know. Because I was talking about last night how like 7,800 levels. Within each level, there's like 5 reasons for me to do everything. So, because I put my eggs in all my eggs in one basket, in like my stellium fifth house kind of thing. And if one reason doesn't work out, then that, another reason would, if it doesn't get me a job here, if it doesn't work out as far as like scientific evidence, if it's not, if it's just art, if it just is something fun for me to do, if it's just this or that, there's always like a bunch of reasons for me to do it within each level. That was definitely, at least one was personal, so that, and then I don't know how many levels of topics and talking on this context or that, scaled up or scaled down. It became such a trend, that phrase, feel good. I mean, even in like just stores here, they're selling like neon signs, feel good. Um, yeah, it's just like it was tricky because I felt like I was in a good place at the time when I started that, to sort of have a realistic idea of how much of maybe influence one person could have that's not really like that well known. Like I didn't feel like I had such a big like social media following that I couldn't put something out there and people would just like pick up on it um, and just like be reiterating it. Like I didn't feel like I had some sort of like, it wasn't like Kim Kardashian. Everyone would be like, oh yeah, she says this is the brand new word to like, use. Like I felt like I was in a position to put things out there and see more realistically if it had any sort of like natural pickup in like in a trend sense, or if it like actually had a ripple effect, or if people actually picked up on that, and without being like, I'm really cool influencer and you should just do this because you know what I mean. I could actually track these things realistically and see how fast they caught on, word usage, and what those represented within each category of chemical cycle, which I realize I've been just talking about for the last like 10 years, alchemy, and that's why I guess I achieved the alchemical stone or philosopher's stone, that overlap of timing and the dragonfly that showed up my porch, and which represents the philosopher's stone. So I should probably start giving some like TED Talks or something like that, or like Discovery of Witches. That again was another timing overlap where I thought people were doing spell work. I mean, I don't know witchcraft at all. I don't know. I'm like, as above, so below, so be it. Like, so I was like, maybe I could get like a curse breaking kit or something. Cause I know they had them at like some witch supply store. So, and I had gone to like Office Depot prior to that. So I made this video in the parking lot. I was like wearing this aqua sweatshirt. I was like, I'm about to go make some bitches pay, my curse breaking kit. Not really, like, so I don't know what I'm doing. And then I referenced that Discovery of Witches AMC television show that I mean, I didn't remember what the promo was or the first episode, when she's wearing this teal like coat and she gives a lecture on alchemy. It's her master's at Oxford. And like, I could talk about these things till I'm blue in the face, and about how it all translates into trends and where we are as a society, and how to pick up on those identifying indicators, and how I related it all to the chemical cycle, but then beyond that, within trend forecasting sense, and how to, yeah, I mean, I guess it's bizarre how these things happen, because it was a slow, like, sort of pickup where it's kind Like I always felt like people were kind of like jumping on my idea, like even from like nursery school. Like it's my friend's Starry Night. Brett, I remember lunch is tinfoil that I was like, oh, we can cut out stars, move it out and cut out stars and make a little Starry Night on the board. And the girl from the desk cluster next to me started doing that right on, like right next to mine. Like, just go to the other board. I don't know. This is my, that's at like Aries, like first. And like, it's original. And yeah. Um, so, but then it started to like, I think maybe once I got into my careers, I can start putting things out there, and then it was just like it just kept more and more and more. And what was so interesting, I felt was appropriate and proportionate to how much effort and time and work I put in that last year in New York. Like, and I did a really great series, and it was proportional like response. Where like an interview and like kind of tracked how like little editorials online featured them, and it was just like, and relatively successful as my timing word said in New York, and things just had a good like steady pace, and like one thing after another was when my Saturn return kicked in, and I was just like happily working away in my little my apartment in New York, um, and like normal interest and people reaching out to me like in some sort of not overly not like oh, it's an overnight success or something, and it wasn't like such a slow pickup that like I was like, why even do it? Like it was a normal and good and like efficient and productive like flow of work and response and people asking me if they want to collaborate or this or that, and an invitation to that hybrid school, and then all of it just was just very like the way it was supposed to be, and like I feel like, and then around 30 I probably would have been there and meeting some guy would have been a good time, and my mom was like, you never know, something really bad could have happened if you had stayed in New York. Like, you might have met the man of your dreams and would have had to deal with that big one eyed snake. Like, that's what it is. Like, some kind of like psychotic. She put like a nun bench in my studio. Like, I don't want that. Probably comes with some nun ghost. I don't, what the fuck is this? So, because if it was nice, I wouldn't care, but I don't like it. And then it seemed to have some sort, and there seemed to be some sort of like inverse effect when I got here, and everything in the world seemed to be mirroring my like even inner thoughts, things I just seen and done, put out there, and it was a good thing that I had some platform to put things out there. And as far as like ideas and even just for my own sort of, it's time to seem to be like not as applicable here or something. And so for my own like saying like, no, I know I put this out then, and I'm gonna gauge at first more in like a technical way of like trend forecasting, but then it was just seemed to be impossible, and be like, I just said or did this, and there wouldn't even been enough time for someone to have seen it and incorporate it into their campaign. And but it's just so personal and so specific that how in the world they must be time travelers. I mean, it just became such a like, but then at the same time, I didn't hear from anyone, where I had like normal like social interactions with people in New York and like work and communication and emails from people and invitations to like do, this or that and like wherever. So it's just like, and then when I got here, it seemed like everything in the world was some sort of reflection of in campaigns and media, and then I just turn on the news and every like, and then anyone ever said in interviews and like everything. And I was like, there must at very least be some part of it being coincidence, and but also maybe there's just someone who's, I can imagine that all these people are like, I have like 300 followers, are delegating these things out to be able to put them into their, like I try to think of every rational like, because it didn't really make sense when everything seems outside of linear time. It was good for me to have like a things that were dated down to the minute for me to. It's like that Four of Swords in the erotic deck. It's girls sitting on like all these film rolls that are just kind of like running around everywhere, and she has like an umbrella. I don't really get how that's erotic. She's just a girl. I was like, girl is on film. I guess that's what it is. um, but that's I equate it to all these like theories about time, the nature and physics of time, and how it allowed me to feel like I had like a rock in the middle of like a watery sort of lake that I had a sense of time there, and then like all the it just seemed so fluid around me of like, well, this person is here, there. I don't know. How could they could come up with that? Or going back in time or crossing paths. I don't know what. I have so many theories on time and whatnot that came out of. But at first, I was like tracking trends and forecasting and just having like a good sense of timing. And it was like a mixture of like, well, maybe they're being supported, maybe they're participating, maybe it's coincidence. And we're just oftentimes, especially in design, like I've never taken forecasting or just kind of, I don't know, you wonder how designers come up with the same like trends at the same time, like people being on some sort of similar wavelength of some kind. Like, I mean, and then I'm like, I put myself out there, so it's possible they're just like, some people are copying it and all these things. So I was just like, I thought it was a mixture of all. People were like, I could get something off of this. Like, I don't know, but at the same time, it was very, there were just a lot of that I couldn't account for. And it was just, this seems like magic or something like AI that can see a little bit into like the future or something. I don't know how that's possible. It's just predictive probability or something of that sort. It was like when I was tracking when making the Valley of Ideas project, I would look up the planetary placements each day, going back and going forward, which you can do on astro.com. I just putting in the day and seeing where the planets are that day, so I could calculate the midpoints and positioning in the sky in accordance to like the day, and then all it's so in that sense, not in the specifics. Like for instance, waltz. I found a statue head. It's a video called "Let Me Blow Your Mind Blown" in the alley, um, and then like there was that Vogue Kendall's Day Off, and then she like crouches down by the fireplace, and it's like statue head on the ground. Like, and that has a lot of codes, like the dropping of roses, and that's referencing the Dior and Pet Shop Boys campaign from like 2017. And, which I thought if fashion was trying to explain like the collision of being, yours would be like just throw some roses. Yeah. Fashion and physics collide. It's a very campy description of the origins of the universe. So that was the collision I saw. I was doing a timing experiment on time and space, and I came to an intersection, and right there was those sidewalk dividers are like big spheres, one right next to another, and two spheres collided, and I was make my exact notes, but it's that video, gifted in magic, alchemy, and telling, bequeathed in knowledge, learning, and esoteric wisdom. So, what would those correlate to? Esoteric wisdom, gifted in magic, alchemy, and fortune telling is what the writer said at Starbucks. The lazy guy that I ran into, he was like, I had to tell her about my character and warn her before the dragons came up from the ground and the old worlds and ruins and all that stuff. And so I was trying to find like a correlation between magic, alchemy, and fortune telling, bequeathed in knowledge, learning, and esoteric wisdom, which one really sort of like kind of mixture. But it's in that video talking about origins and collision and fluttery stylistic elements colliding. And so I tried to explain all that with fashion campaigns. Dior one. And that was similar to like the jump, like the wandering around a every designer had their like version of that, which I thought was cool. Yeah, let me see if I can find two candles to it. Even the occasions that they chose, this, some videos, the moldings and whatnot, in reference to Marie Antoinette. Um, I love that. It's like a time capsule. I'm like, I love that campaign. Just like, you know, There's even like here it is. These were like, these were like all the codes at the time, referencing ASAP Rocky video. Also, like all the like different into the gap. Um, Set design, all moving. Um, Me too. You know I love video. There's nothing better than Givenchy and ice cream. They're trying to make me leave. Preach. I lost ring for like 2 years. Found it. A ring. Um, Statues. The Nine of Pentacles. He's showing her how to actually do it. And it's kind of a joke. But it was an exaggeration of, yeah, like, just, like if I could drive around in like a. It's the glass box that's in bad blood as well, and representing the IC and home. Cancer, fourth house. I feel like you're in a fishbowl. Um, homegirl. Um, and the switching of like, it's referenced my music aspect, the Chiron 12 and 12. The bent leg, and that means that like when you go around a intersection in a corner, it's kind of like it's kind of like the bending of words, or giving something rhythm and flow and poetry and rhyme, and all that has to do with that aspect. I feel like within my own chart, art, meditation, Pilates. I mean, like a stretch. So you think of like Pilates, yoga, and like certain like different poses that they've ruined that word, but that's okay. They can just have that on their own and talk normal English. And yeah, like just things like art, poetry, music, meditation. In the mind, I felt like that was a perfect description of like is it perceptual learning and raised consciousness, and the meditation data plays, and yeah, and Gemini and the unknown and the 12th house, just like mysteries of how it worked out that way, and it works. Yeah, so those are all mine, my data plays. I don't know if let's get back to my Jack Daniels Beanstalk and Gang. It's so funny. It's so funny. Little quotes from Revenge. Flowers. Um, the deeper you dig, the trick is to lay it on. Um, my father was knifed to death by a. You really don't want to follow in your parents' footsteps of becoming someone's like centerpiece. How did I get so off track? Like off the beaten path. Um, it's so funny. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. There's so many of them. The redacted story. There's more to the story. It's a big Jack and the Beanstalk cover up. So, poetic justice, my true legacy. But hey, on the bright side, it's so bizarre. wholesale coffee beans. It's a side business. My accountant from my foundation had me tied up all day in condo. They're so good. Realizing 3 moves away from snapping your neck. One more step and it's over. Yeah, step on flour. The deal's changed, Jack. The bitch had it coming. These plants. I just hope they come to their senses. Things get a lot worse around here. Baseless case against him. It's not a base. Very Van Gogh, just saying. They were victims of his too. If there's anything we've learned so far, we'll go first then. Do you have a death wish? Yes and no. So, better get to it. Have a good day.